We're going to get started. Welcome to our webinar for today, combining ProShop ERP and Inspection Manager will boost your quality efficiency. Just a couple of housekeeping things to begin with. First of all, would you please raise your hand if you can hear me and see my screen? That button is located at the bottom of your screen. A batch of hands coming in. Should you have any difficulty with either the audio or the visual, Zoom webinar does recommend that you close the session and re-enter. A lot of times that takes care of pretty much everything that has gone wrong. So our presentation will last approximately 45 minutes today, followed by a Q&A session. We will also have a separate Q&A session in the middle. We actually have 3 different sections, so we'll have one between the first and section. I'll go over that in a minute. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Please click that to ask your questions, and you may ask your questions at any point during the session. We will answer as many as we can during the live webinar, and any questions that are unanswered at the end, we will take care of answering after the session is over by email. I'd like to introduce you to our presenters today. Chris Mendocino is our VP of Product. Chris is the voice of the customer for our product development team. So he's got an extensive background, as you can see from the slide, in CAD, CAM, DNC, OEE, IoT, ERP, and now quality management systems. He'll be presenting the inspection manager portion of our session. Brian Anderson worked with ProShop for 20 years. Currently deals with a wide variety of things, including some onboarding and also some pre-sales. Our special guest today is Jamie Marzilli of Marzilli Machine Company. Marzilli Machine uses both ProShop ERP and Inspection Manager in their operations. And a shout out, congratulations to Jamie and his shop for being on the cover of this month's Modern Machine Shop. Great story if you haven't had a chance to read it. Jamie's going to be leading off today to go over how he uses ProShop and Inspection Manager together to build his business. Jamie, over to you.
Thanks, Jack. So we found that we were spending a lot of manual time keeping track of both our ERP software, our legacy software, and also, just manually filling out all of the paperwork, Excel sheets and stuff that you guys are probably doing in your own shops. We wanted to come up with a better way of handling that entire process and managing how work flows through the quality control department. And one of our customers actually sent us in a print that we could see was, I want to call it professionally ballooned. It was much better than anything we had done. And we started looking on the web and we found High QA. And after a couple of demos, we said, man, this is really better than anything else that we've seen. We've seen a few of these things at East Tech. This one it's just a cut above the rest. You can tell somebody put a lot of thought into how this software should respond to actual machinists in a machine shop and how the work is going to flow through quality. So we made the leap, and right away we found an immediate, basically it paid for itself in the reduction of manual labor that we were putting into keeping track of how quality management was moving through the quality control department. Not having to shuffle through papers, having everything right at our fingertips, being able to take an infinite number of samples on our parts and always have that data in front of us without having to search through paperwork if there's ever a problem going forward. We found that to be invaluable to us. There were other parts of the system that we also found to be extremely useful, like being able to collect information straight from our CMM and it balloons the prints basically automatically. One of the issues that we thought we were going to have that we were pleasantly surprised that ended up not being an issue was you can teach it old font. Like if it's not a modern print, if it's from the Department of Defense from like 1962, you can teach it the font and it will be able to read the print pretty accurately and continue to scan through and create the data. It creates the data, and then you can do whatever you want with the data. So we immediately implemented it and found it was a real game changer for us. And from there, it changed the mentality of how we were running the business, which was what the article in Modern Machine Shop magazine was really about, was about our commitment to automating the administration of a business and not so much the replacing the labor content in a business. And so we jumped from there. We started saying, man, we're really missing out with our ERP system. What else is available out there? What else could we be doing better? And that simple question started a snowball effect where we ended up jumping ship. I mean, we were using our legacy software here for about 8 years to run our ERP, and we're so impressed by what we had seen with ProShop that we decided to take the plunge. And we have no regrets about that. There's no looking back now. The two softwares between Inspection Manager and ProShop, they work together very well. We don't do any manual transferring of the data from our quality control document system, which is Inspection Manager, over to ProShop, our ERP. We do the entire thing digitally. We post out a simple CSV file. We load it up into ProShop. We tell ProShop, yeah, this is op 50, op 60, op 70, throw everything in at op 2000, which is our final inspection op. And it just does it. It places all of the inspection data right where we would need it to be, which allows our guys downstairs on the floor to basically just open it up, add a part, and start doing their inspections right at their machine. And we're able to digitally capture that information now, and it spreads throughout the entire company. If there's a non-conforming material report and a guy has to generate it because something went wrong, all of the management is aware of it, so we can help, we can get involved, we can start to track the macro data to see, hey, are we constantly having a problem in this machine? It drags your attention to it, so we can say, yeah, every time we try to interpolate a hole that's better than 2000s, we have a lot of trouble holding this. So we can't throw every machine out, but you can ream that hole instead, and you can start to plan better. If you have better data, everybody hears about garbage in and garbage out systems. This attacks that problem head on, and it begins to eliminate the garbage in part of the problem. And so we've been very, very happy with it in both in the high QA and in the ProShop. It's a real game changer, and the biggest thing that it's going to do for us is allow us to continue to scale our company.
Great, thank you, Jamie.
No problem.
We're going to break into some Q&A right now. If anybody has any questions specifically for Jamie and how he uses the two products together, now is the time to ask them. Otherwise, we'll move on to Brian Anderson. Jamie does have to leave us at this point. Any questions that are asked later that would be best for him to answer, we will certainly forward to him following the session. So Brian, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If you want to start sharing yours, take on over.
All right. Thanks, Jack. I appreciate that. And Jamie, thank you as well. Those are all very kind things, and certainly really appreciate you as a customer and everything that you've said. So let me just get my screen up here. All right, so can everyone see my screen? I need just a little bit of a thumbs up oh, okay, great, thank you, I appreciate that. All right, well, I'm gonna kind of pick up with the history of ProShop just a little bit, because I think what Jamie was saying is really the reason that we developed ProShop was to be able to do all of those things in one environment to affect our business. So as we take a look, ProShop was actually founded as a machine shop in 1997 with some graduates from Western Washington University in the Vehicle Research Institute. They wanted to take everything that they knew and everything that they did and start servicing the industry. And in the Pacific Northwest, most of that industry is in aerospace, but we certainly did a lot of work in a lot of other areas as well. So obviously machining and engineering and complex assemblies. We really thought that we could bring all of these things into all the expertise into the industry and serve our customers best. We were using Excel until about 2000. 2000 happens to be the year that I came on. I'm a machinist by trade, as you probably saw in my profile there. And we were really just doing everything we could to digitally manage our system and digitally manage our growth. But of course, with Excel, we still had paper around the shop. We were still losing things. And we had no data collection. And we were able to see some information if we wanted to dive through spreadsheets or folders or what have you, but it was very difficult. So we started developing ProShop in 2000. Now, ProShop was originally developed in a web browser, where it still is today. And we have continued to grow that software over time. In 2008, again, keep in mind that we were a machine shop, but in 2008, our largest customer came to us and said, hey, we want to buy your software. You can see the gentleman here, Rich Olson. He was actually an employee of ours. He moonlighted with us rather on the weekends. His main job was actually working with our largest customer, South Arrow Marine there. And they approached us and said, hey, let's take a look at your software. We think based off of what Rich has said, this could be a really big thing for us. Of course, being a machine shop, you're like, that's crazy. What are you talking about? But they were fairly insistent, and so we helped them implement it. And in the first year, they saw huge gains in what they were doing: 20% overhead reduction, 90% reduction in late orders, 400% planning throughput, and then 300% ROI in that first year. And of course, at that point, we as a company stood back and said, okay, well, hold on a second, we must be doing something right. And I think a lot of those things were what Jamie was talking about earlier, being able to address what the job needs, being able to address what the customers' needs are, and being able to see that all within the system. So we continue to grow the software and grow the machining company. The founder sold the machining company in 2014. From in that time, we had grown to about 75 employees, over 25 CNC machines, and doing a bit over 11 million in annual revenue. So what's the big picture? Really, what is ProShop all about? So our goal and our mission is to allow shops in our industry to thrive by helping you organize into one system and save costs by doing it. We're not just saying, hey, let's add a tool here, add a tool there, and we'll make each individual job run better. What we're saying is we want to give everybody in the organization the tools that they need to make the decisions that they need to do in the moment, make the decisions that they need to do for the entire company, and optimize the entire operation, improve all the profitability and the performance of the entire company. As Jamie said, you're able to measure these things on a macro, and even with much greater detail, you can track what goes on with any customer projects, any costing, individual maintenance, any of those types of things. You can actually track within the system, and you can do it completely paperlessly. So that brings me to another point, which I think that we're all here again in this crazy world that we live in. Working from home. So because ProShop is a digital system, I always like to throw this slide in here because this does allow you to actually work remotely. You can see on the left-hand side a list of things that you can do within ProShop that you do not actually need to be in the facility to do. You can do it all right from your computer, however you're connected to the system. If you're in the cloud or if you're on-premise, all of it works exactly the same way. So you can do all your estimating and quoting, project management, scheduling, purchasing, all your quality monitoring. All of that can be done remotely. And we've had quite a few customers in this last year since March be able to continue operations at a high level because they're able to split their office staff, have them work remotely, have the people on the shop floor be reduced and be spread further out. And get the stuff on the right-hand side, the stuff done that you need to do in the shop, obviously receiving and job kitting, setup and running and inspection, etc. So as we take a look at what tools ProShop has to offer, I've just got a few quick little slides here, but I like to say that we do everything from the front door to the back door. So when we take a look at the overall progress of any specific job or any specific department, we have tools to manage those built within the system. So in this case, we have quick and easy reporting for sales. We can see how many sales did we make? How much have we shipped? What are our projected numbers? What's our profitability? All with a quick little report. We have many different versions of reports like this. You can see your machine schedules. You can see easily on a Gantt chart what work you have coming and what the status is. Everything here is automated too. So when we have a job that is running late, or we have a job that may be in danger, we'll be able to see right from this with a simple color code, and then hopefully take some action about it. One additional thing on this is that we've automated a lot of the overhead that goes into managing a machine schedule or machine shop schedule. I say machine schedule, you can of course schedule anything that you want, whether that's a machine schedule, an assembly department, or what have you. So when new work gets entered into the system, whether that's right from estimating or right from quality or customer service rather, all new jobs are automatically created on the Gantt charts. And then they're automatically updated as work is accomplished. So really what we've tried to do is boil down the schedule management to just that, actually managing the schedule, not having to input data and not having to update things. We want the system to do that because it's already collecting all that data automatically. We have visual work cues for people. So we'll be able to see here in this case, visual work instruction. We want to be able to provide the people on the shop floor the information that they need at that point in time to set up the job that they're running. We have, here's a visual work cue. So again, we're trying to in addition to a Gantt chart, show people what is coming up on a machine, what kind of work is there. And then when we do this, we're also going to provide additional information, whether that's delivery or due date information, or on the right-hand side, you'll see that there's some purchasing status. So again, those are going to automatically update. So we'll be able to see along the way, what's the status of any purchased item for any of the projects that I happen to be working on. For supervisors and department leads or even manufacturing managers, we'll be able to see how we're doing on our progress. So some quick, simple little graphs to see as work is going through the system, whether we're in setup or in production running, how are we doing? Are we meeting our targets? We know when we planned the job that it should have been 10 hours. Maybe it was 6 hours to set up and 4 hours for runtime. Well, we know all that at the beginning. So here we're displaying how much time did we actually take in real time as people are on the shop floor and they're logging their progress. These charts and numbers update in real time so I can see, are we doing okay? Is there a problem? Are we doing excellent? Do I want to do more of one particular part number? So I don't have to wait until the very end to find out that, hey, something has gone wrong and I've just taken 4 hours too long for a project and now I'm going to lose money. You can see data, again, this is kind of on the macro level, as Jamie had mentioned before, but you'll be able to see data for all of your employees. How many hours have they worked? Have they tracked that time? When they're tracking that time, are they actually against jobs? When they do that, what's their efficiency percentage? All of those things that we need to know in terms of not only how a job runs, how our employees are doing, but just in general as a company. Are we hitting where we need to be profitable and make money? Individual non-conformance collation. So we're actually taking these the quality from every job that we do, and we're able to create non-conformances right in the moment, and we'll be able to collate all that data and provide that for our monthly reporting. So in this case, we can see in a certain time period, whatever it might be, how many parts have we scrapped, how many parts just went through any NCR, and as we go through them all, I think Jamie also mentioned, what's the specific cause of those things. You'll see that we've got NCR codes and cause codes. All of those things can be customized within your system to meet whatever code that you need. As we're moving through time tracking, and you move into a much more granular view of what you're doing. So we move sort of from a macro view of how the shop is doing into a much more condensed and much more granular view of, hey, where am I spending my time as a company? Are we doing running and setup? Are we doing a lot of troubleshooting or miscellaneous? Or you can even, this is one screen, there's several screens for this. You can even see how much time you're spending on maintenance or cleanup or Kaizen or general improvement. All of those things are options that you can track and report very, very quickly and very easily in the system. I'm going to jump now to a live demo in the system just for a few minutes to kind of give you a sense of what it's really like in ProShop. As I mentioned before, we're a web-based system, so we're all in a browser right now, and I'm using standard browser functions, things like my shortcuts, just to get to where I need to be. So I'm going to go ahead and start at the schedule again and just move right into that. And I'm going to be able to see in real time, this is my schedule. And I can see that I've got 2 jobs on this schedule right away that are in trouble. Now, as I look through any of these things, I can dive into any information. Maybe I want to take a look at the next job here and say, okay, well, this is the next job that's coming up. It looks like it's still got to get through a little bit of planning. It's got some material that's on order. If I click on this, I'll be able to see the material in the purchase order that goes in. Sorry, let me just rearrange this little pop-up here. The material that's needed for the job and the material cert that goes with it. All of that is going to be connected and easy for me to find. If I want to know more information about the actual part and how it was quoted, I can dive into an estimate right from there and see all the information that I need to see to know how this job was built from the quoting phase. What was the expectation of machines? What was the expectation of time? All of my out-of-pocket costs, any of that kind of stuff I can easily approach from here. When I want to take a look at my work instruction, I'll go into each individual operation and take a look at my built-in work instruction, complete with my fixturing, what fixtures am I going to use here, all of my cutting tool list that links directly into my cutting tool module, so I'll be able to see every single tool that I need, the tooling information and availability for it. All of my set work instructions, so my what we call run descriptions, all of that can be visual. And all of this can be updated on the shop floor in real time. So if we don't have this information prepped and ready to go, we can actually give our shop floor folks some tablets with cameras or their PCs will be able to do the same thing as well, just to be able to add that information in real time as they move through the system. I think I'm getting pretty close to the end of my spot here, but a couple more things, and I think that Chris is going to actually take up and talk a little bit more about this. We have also the built-in, and this is kind of where HiQA and ProShop kind of merge here, is that we have the built-in quality system within ProShop. So if we want to take a look at our approved print, we can take a look at our approved print. I can see that's the one that's already gone through HiQA and has the data brought in. And we can see that as I move into my inspection, I actually have an inspection. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead of myself here. This is actually what Chris will be talking about. Actually bringing that information in from HiQA and filling out our inspection plans. All right, Chris, I think that probably is a good spot to transition over to you. I don't know if anyone had any direct questions for me at the moment.
Yeah, Brian, we'll handle all the questions at the end of the session.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And just as a reminder to everyone that's attending, use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to ask your question.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Brian. If you want to stop sharing your screen, I'll share mine.
All right.
And we've got this here. All right. You guys should be able to see my screen now. Okay,
yep.
Jack, quick confirmation on that.
Yep, I see you moving your mouse around.
Okay, great. All right, awesome. So, yeah, kind of picking up where Brian left off here. I do want to have one thing open over here on the side. Picking up where Brian left off, the intersection of ProShop and HiQA comes with regard to the op details here. So something I do like about ProShop that's really nice is most ERP systems stop right here, but they allow you to go into the op level. So if we have like a rough stock prep or this mill profile, mill backside, if we have these ops here, I can drill into them. And like Brian was showing, I have different information sets as part of this operation, okay? Now, somebody had already asked a question within the Q&A about how to interlink operations from high QA into inspection manager and what that looks like. So I'm definitely going to get into that. That's a key part of this whole setup. So what this looks like is there's specific ops where we want to import specific inspection criteria to. Okay. Now with ProShop, without a system like high QA, you would have to hand type in all of the requirements and such, and manually balloon the drawing and such and upload it. That's where high QA is able to come in and add substantial value. So I want to shift over to high QA for a minute here to show you how that side of it works. But just keep in mind that we have operation 30 and then operation 50, 60, and 2000, where we're going to do some inspections. Okay. So over on the high QA side here, or inspection manager, I should say, I've started to set up this part. So how this works is you would go up to new from drawing up here, and you can pull in any PDF, any TIFF file, even we can even take JPEGs. We've done that in the past for some shops that have just JPEGs of drawings. We can still do that. PDF obviously being the preferred because of the image quality. So what we have is a very advanced OCR technology that lets us take this drawing and I can interact with it. I can zoom in and out, so I can work with this drawing file. If we have multiple pages, we'll have like a whole panel in here where I can shift between multiple pages. This one just has a single page though. And we've got our part criteria. So Inspection Manager runs on a database. It's very similar to an ERP type system where we would want to say, okay, this is my customer, this is my part number and part name and rev. And we would want those to match whatever we're building in ProShop. Okay, so that way, when I go to my open repository here and I run a search for a particular part number, I can just pull that part number up very easily and see that in the system. So I've got one here that's my starting point and one that's a little farther along for the sake of time here. All right. So to start off, we're going to take this drawing and just auto balloon it. Okay. So I'm going to click up here. I have a few settings for whether or not we want to capture basic reference or general tolerance dimensions. We can do surface finish detection, flag node detection, and fastener and weld if we had those license options. All right, so we can do all pages at once. We can do the current page, and I'm going to just let this run with the default settings here. Okay, so what this is doing is it's scanning this PDF as an image. There's no data or anything necessarily in the PDF file that's giving us any assistance here. It's truly just running this and extracting all of the data like so, as you can see here. Here we go. Like this. All right, so we got something kind of like this set up. I want to just do one thing real quick here. We're going to go here like so. We're going to try that one more time. I think there was a small shift there in the way that I had those parts set up and linked. So we're going to let that run. So like I said, it's scanning this as an image to do the capturing of the dimensions. And so one of the things where we excel at is recognition of GD&T characteristics. That's something that even other ballooning packages don't do from an OCR level, definitely not from an automatic level. Okay, so being able to capture all of these dimensions automatically, just like so. It found where all the dimensions were on the print, did the ballooning, and populated this entire bill of characteristics here. And you saw that only took, what, 25 seconds, something in that range. So if I look at my sheet properties, I can see my stats, so 0.409 minutes, okay? So being able to extract all the characteristics and understanding what's here. So the dimension, the type, the requirement, nominal, upper and lower, even the tolerance types. When there's multipliers on dimensions, kind of like this, where we've got 4x because there's 4 instances of a whole. We're picking up the fact that there's 4 instances. You can see those here. And we even understand feature requirements where this whole, we want to check the diameter, thread, true position. And so I can detect all 3 of those features, okay? And we make those sub-characteristics like this, 16.1, 2, and 3, okay? So a variety of ways to deal with all this. We have an impressive dimension editor because as I think this was mentioned in the beginning during the kind of testimony that you may have times where there's poor quality prints and things don't come in perfect. You know, that's typically you'll have about 85, 90% accuracy and you'll have to do a little bit of touch up, but you're saving a substantial amount of time. You're taking hours of work, bringing it down to minutes instead. And so we give you, that's because we give you all the tools that you'll need to be able to edit the dimensional criteria, dial it in exactly how you want to inspect the features. We can assign things like gauge categories, as you'll see here. I actually have an automation rule put in place to, based on dim type, it assigns particular categories. Like for my thread here, it automatically assigned a thread plug gauge. And you can do that with any of the gauge categories we either have by default. You can make your own custom categories, etc., to really align with what ProShop has in their system. Okay, you can kind of match everything up. We can also assign things like designators and criticality, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's talk operations for a minute here. I'm going to go over to my other part that I had. We're going to pull that up real quick. We've got this guy here. All right, so I already broke this one out into operations to match what we had in ProShop. So Inspection Manager starts with the concept of a finished drawing, and then you break out the individual ops that you want to inspect at and define the particular dimensions that get checked at each operation. So the way I did that, and I'll do that as an example here just to show you, I would select some particular features like this. I can do that graphically on the drawing, or I can do that by picking through my list that I have down here. And I would just add an operation, and that adds those dimensions to that operation. So I can even see that operation just with a specific op drawing. You can see these dimensions have an extra tag at the end of them now because they are dimensions related to that operation specifically. Okay. And I can see that for any of my operations just to see the unique inspection criteria or requirements and drawing at that stage. Okay, so these drawings can be exported and uploaded to the operations within ProShop if you wanted to, or you can just have the finished drawing exported and brought up to ProShop. Okay, so as you'll see here, so once you have this all ballooned and set up, I can just click one button and I'm able to generate my balloon PDF. This is what Brian had uploaded into ProShop, something just like this. Okay. And then again, after we set up the manufacturing operations, and those are aligned with ProShop, all we have to do to share all the inspection criteria with ProShop is come up here to our export ProShop CSV. Okay, and this is a customized CSV that's built just to specifically format the data in a way that ProShop needs to see it. Okay, and for those of you that are already working with ProShop and HiQA, and maybe you joined the webinar just to see if there's anything new, we just came out with our latest version, 5.1 of Inspection Manager. Okay, and we did add a few new details in there that helps streamline the process. So I'll show you that in just a second when it comes up. So the way this works on the ProShop side, so now that I've exported my list of characteristics, I would, on the ProShop side, I would come up from my part record. I would just go here to launch my CSV import tool. Okay, and I can pick my file, or I can just drag it in like this. So I've got the file opened here. I can just drag it in like so, and it brings it right into my system. Okay, now this gives me a preview of the CSV file. So you can see that because we launched it from the part, it knows the part that I'm at, and it knows the operations here. So if we scroll down, we'll see that there's operation 30, 50, and 2000. Okay. So we've got all the dimensional criteria per each operation, the balloon numbers, the type, and this is something new as a 5.1, as I mentioned. So we're now putting out the multiplier like this. Previously, you had to kind of separate the unique instances, but you don't necessarily have to do that. You can do this either way. You can either have the unique instances line by line, or you can have a single line for a dimension with a 4x multiplier. Okay, and ProShop is able to see both of those. All right, type and so on. All that data is export just with a couple of clicks. Okay, and now to import this, I'm just going to grab my configuration that I have here. I've got a stored config file that automatically maps and the different columns. So it says which data is being sent to which area of ProShop, right? And there's one spot here where I'm just going to drag this over to grab those ones because they didn't store in the config. And we'll just say review the data. And I can get a preview of this data like so. Okay. Oh, I left that operation in there that I just randomly created. Didn't mean to do that, but that's okay. And we can even see, if we wanted to click into these, we can see the specific dimensions that are being brought in per operation, right? So I can click and review it if I wanted to, just to make sure the data is being segregated correctly. All right, and then I would submit, I'd hit okay. And that's going to import all that data to that part. So we get this nice little bubble here. It says successfully imported 1 of 1 records. And it brings us to a lookup of that part. So I can just click into that part now. And when I go to each operation, like let's look at op 50, I can look at the part check info. Let's actually blow it up to the whole thing. And you'll see this now populated that entire list of requirements within ProShop. Okay, and so it's bringing all that data in with the multipliers that are here, the types, the requirements, the measurement devices that are going to be used. Now, ProShop, for those of you who are already ProShop customers, maybe you're curious about this. I didn't set this up for this particular demo, but whether or not this is the final inspection criteria, and then you would check the box for which items are checked in process, so in process check. So we can also designate that on the high QA side and have that data shared directly into ProShop if you had it set up that way. Okay, there's a lot of different little nuances like that that we can configure based on the individual needs of the customer and what they're looking to establish for their standard operating procedures. Okay, so this, I'm just scrolling through here to see the output for the different ops. Okay, so now, Brian, this is kind of the area where I haven't done this as much, but if we go down to the, so Brian, let me know if I'm missing something here, but if we go down to the work order side, like so, this is the area where the operators would be able to pull up their work order, log in, and start performing work against their particular order. Now, Brian, do I have to refinalize?
No, that information is live. It feeds from, so in ProShop, we have the differentiation between the part record and the work order record. Now, the part record is essentially like a router, right? That's where the manufacturing plan lives, and it feeds the work order. And the work order is very much similar to what a lot of companies see as a job traveler. It's just that it's digital. So this is where we're logging the status and results of executing that manufacturing plan. So if you click into operation 50, for example, and then click on the first article, what you'll see is all that information will automatically be there ready for you to fill out. In this case, this is the first article. We also have the ability to do the in-process inspection, as you had mentioned. And there it all is. So it's really just kind of the one step. Once you get it in, it will automatically feed to your active work orders. Now, I want to make one quick point, is that because ProShop has is able to track historical data. So if you've done, maybe in this case this is revision B, but if you've done revision A in the past and you have work orders that were executed at Rev A with a different inspection plan, that's no problem. ProShop will actually maintain those historical records for those old Rev work orders, and then keep all the current stuff current and dispersed to the active work orders. So we do maintain all of that pretty seamlessly.
That's a good point too, Brian. Is HiQA does the same thing as well for being able to manage the revisions. So you can declare new part revisions, do a comparison of the old to the new drawing, adjust your dimensions accordingly, and then you would export export the new inspection criteria and upload that to the revved part record within ProShop. So everything's able to stay synchronized there. You'll have the history in both systems, us having the quality information and ProShop having the part record data as well. So
Right. Yeah. No, that's great.
Excellent. So one thing I want to mention just at the end here, and then we'll shift over for Q&A. Just for some context, Inspection Manager is a full-fledged quality management system. And so we do have customers that are shared with ProShop that there's some tools that we offer beyond just the ballooning and development of characteristics, where if you have the tools, if you have the system and you're a customer of Inspection Manager or HiQA, then you have options on how far you want to take those tools and how much process you want to integrate into your facility, right? And so we can get much more advanced with this that we don't have time to get into too much for the sake of this webinar, but we can deal with things like sampling rules for production inspection planning. So if you want to do AQL based sampling, or kind of like percentage of the lot, percentage, or one per quantity, and time-based sampling, all those kind of things. We can do pretty advanced sample planning like that, as well as direct imports from CMM equipment or any automated inspection equipment. We can directly import all of that data and run analytics on it. You'll see I have an SPC tab up here for doing SPC analysis on the results data from your production. So, and then we can generate all sorts of customized reports, whether it be first article reports, lot inspection reports, et cetera. The system goes quite deep, quite quickly, but both systems, I would say, ProShop and Inspection Manager, are highly scalable solutions that offer functionality that you can start to kind of break into and do kind of a crawl, walk, run sort of approach to either system and get more sophisticated and more heavily automated and efficient as you grow with the system. So that's one of the key benefits to this partnership here, is the maturity of both platforms to allow you to start where you are today. And everybody wants to be more automated. So part of the deal of seeking out vendors that you want to partner with is knowing that you're partnering with a company that has products that are able to take you where you want to be, not just in the next year, but in the next 5, 10, and 20 years as you're expanding your company.
Yeah, I think, Chris, and I think that one of the questions here from Nikolai about, do you find it's adequate to manage dimensions per operation on one or the other software rather than both? I know that you had mentioned, Nikolai, that you think that question has been answered, but I think that really can tag right along with what you were just talking about, in the sense that because both softwares are scalable, because you have different options, you get to choose what's the best approach for your company and the way that you're structured. Everybody's quality manual is a little bit different. Everybody's needs are a little bit different, and you're certainly not boxed into any one way of doing things. It just depends on what works best for you. So if you have more users as Inspection Manager, that may be the route you take, or vice versa. So I think that's really the flexibility that you get between these two softwares, and the fact that as you said, they're both mature and very, very scalable, is just a benefit to you being able to choose the right path and then adjust that as your company grows and changes.
Yep, very good. So there were some other questions that were coming up. I'll take a couple of those.
Yeah.
Jack,
Oh, sorry. I was just going to mention that there's one other question that I wanted to answer here from Nikolai from earlier on. So yeah, and I think that we're just moving into the Q&A phase here, unless you had a little bit more to cover on the presentation side, Chris.
No, we can just seamlessly roll right in.
Okay, great.
So.
Well, yeah, so this question was, with work orders being fully contained and managed online through ProShop, so in a digital environment, how do our customers track the physical material, physical product that is going through the company, going through the workstations? And the short answer is that they still have to be tagged, of course. So what we want to do is really provide just an ID tag. Now, right now, simple rules, of course, and most of the companies that we work with simply just have a tag, whether that's a printed tag or a laminated piece of cue card or something like that has the work order number or the purchase order number if we're talking about raw materials. And what we want to do is we expect that the employees, the users, will identify or see that ID tag and then look in the system for the information, because that's where the system is live. That's where the information is. And so if we're taking a look at a work order, for example, if you put on a physical tag or any physical job traveler, if you put on there a delivery date, a quantity, a revision, those things they're essentially uncontrolled. Any of those things could change at any point in time. So if you simply put the ID number on, in our case, the work order number, like the job traveler, then what we're doing is we're essentially requiring people to log onto the system, and it's just a quick series of numbers that will provide you the work order. It'll just get you right to that work order, and then you get to see all the current and live data. So we're basically forcing that through the system. If it's in the system, it's the controlled data and it's live. So that's really what it boils down to. We're continuing to develop better tools for being able to create labels as well. We have a few labels in ProShop, but there's also some more coming down the pipe with some more of our development where you'll be able to just say print a work order tag or print a material tag, and it'll have the information that you specify on that tag. So I hope that answers that question okay.
Yep, great.
All right. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. We've got a couple of other questions here on the side as well. I'll go through and answer a few of those. One of them, if I purchase the two software packages, do you recommend implementing ProShop before HiQA, the other way around, or doesn't matter? It's a great question. I think maybe Brian and I may have differing answers depending on our experience. But I think, there's not necessarily a right or wrong way to do it. I think from my perspective, having dealt with that, that question probably comes up almost any time that customer buys both systems. But HiQA ProShop is a longer term sort of implementation. While I would say it's drastically shorter than most ERP migrations that I've seen in the past, it's still something that takes, you're touching more areas of the company and the process, and it takes some time to fully work itself through the company. So HiQA is able to offer some really rapid intrinsic value. Even if it is disconnected from ProShop in the beginning, you can start ballooning prints right away. Even if you want to just export the ballooned PDF and the quick inspection planner or something and kind of work that way as sort of a short term, because you can just immediately start eliminating wasted time in trying to balloon prints and such. So we're very familiar with how to work with companies to develop a short-term standard process, and then once you're up and running with ProShop, then we can kind of shift the details of that to say, okay, rather than exporting a balloon PDF in an Excel planner, we're going to share that balloon PDF into ProShop, and we're going to export a planner into ProShop and let operators and inspectors input their results digitally through the ProShop interface. So yeah, absolutely. And so you can go either way if you want to do that. Obviously, the alternative would be getting ProShop up and running first, and then you find out about HiQA. But
Right. Yeah.
either way.
And I think that that's it's a really good thing to keep in mind that ProShop, the intent is really to manage everything. It's like I said before, front door to back door. So there is quite a bit going on, and you're really going to be bringing in every role in your company is going to be involved with ProShop, and that may not be the case with HiQA. So where exactly HiQA fits into that cycle of training within maybe even at the same time bringing ProShop on, I would say that it's absolutely manageable to bring both of them on at exactly the same time, because the way that the workload is split up within ProShop itself.
Yep. There's another good question here. What is the commitment from both partners to keep the interoperability for the long term? I'll take that first, Brian. But I would say it's very, very good. We've got an excellent relationship with ProShop. Obviously, we're doing webinars together, so we're good buddies. But yeah, I would say it's we're definitely committed to even furthering the integration here. So the integration we have today is definitely not as sophisticated as where we want to be in the next few months. Brian could probably speak more to this, but we just became aware that ProShop just came out with their first iteration of their API that we've been waiting for, because now we can start to do a deeper integration that's a bit more just, click a button and share the data rather than sharing a CSV file back and forth. It can be much more directly connected and interrelated. So we have some really exciting plans for having the systems tie more directly together at multiple levels, not just sharing a list of inspection criteria.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. We're in beta testing for the first half. I don't know how you want to look at it, maybe the read half or what have you, but the beta testing for the first half of that API currently, and as we look at these things, HiQA is really important partner for us, because it provides so much value to the. In fact, I wish that I had inspection manager specifically when I was doing project management. It's just such a natural fit for how we think about work, how we digitize everything, that everything just falls into place. And so continuing to develop things like the API really helps solidify that relationship. And yeah, it's definitely here for the long term.
And then one more question here too. This is more HiQA specific, but how can I get my results from gauges into Inspection Manager? So I think the question about gauges would be presumably automatic gauges. And so like CMM equipment, vision systems, et cetera, anything that's going to output some results data. So Inspection Manager has some tools. You can even see up here, I've got this on my screen. I believe I'm still sharing. But you can see Machine Sync up here is a tab that we have. And so we actually have some tool sets for reading inspection results data from any CMM equipment that's on the planet. As long as it can output a file, then we can read that file. And we have a highly configurable import engine where, so I guess the best way to explain it, most people are familiar with the concept of customized reporting. And so we have a report designer that lets us build any sort of output format. So if you want a specialized like first article or lot inspection report, we can build custom formats for that, right? So on the reverse, we have this concept of a preset by which we can actually develop custom import templates okay, that we call presets. So whether you have PCVMIS, Zeiss Calypso, Metatoyo, CMM Manager, whatever you have, we don't really care what it is. We have standard import templates for most systems that we've come across. And then anything where you say, but I don't do things the standard way. I have this little special thing over here. We can accommodate that pretty quickly. It takes us, we do a quick little scope development with you, say exactly what the behavior is going to look like, how things need to map, and it takes a couple of weeks, and you're up and running, automatically importing data from any CMM equipment that you would have. So that way there's no manual entry or typing or just file management. We directly ingest the data, and we even manage the source files automatically and associate them under the part record, so that you can have a history of all the source data in addition to the results data that comes into Inspection Manager. So,
okay.
All good questions.
Yeah. There's a couple more here. Is there any financial benefit that we provide the customers that commit to join the bundle? Well, join as sort of two softwares together. Really, the obvious answer with that is that they both softwares offer a pretty huge improvement on basically process reduction, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to let the computers do what they're really, really good at, which is data processing. And so if you do choose to bring all ProShop and Inspection Manager on at the same time, you're really kind of doubling efforts to streamline that. And so you'll find that the return on investment is very, very fast for both systems. And of course, if Jamie were still on, I think he could speak to that much more succinctly than I would be able to, as he's the customer, so he definitely has firsthand experience there. I know we're getting to the end of our hour here. I want to mention a little bit, one quick thing that I hear a lot when I'm talking to folks, whether it's existing customers or new prospective customers. We're getting very constant questions about internet security, CMMC requirements and compliance, etc. So here at ProShop, I do want to say that we are definitely on the forefront of CMMC requirements and compliance. We have a very active development in that arena. And we have tools in place already to help companies meet that. In fact, if anyone is very concerned about that, that's something we take very seriously. And I have some data that I can share with you. So if that's something that you're looking for, you're not sure how to handle with your existing system, we are building that right in to ProShop, because we know that that's going to be a fact of life. We have to have all sorts of security in place. And we're not taking that one lightly. That's definitely something that we're spending quite a bit of time doing. Yeah, so I think that's probably about all I've got. I know, like I said, we're pretty much at the top of our hour here.
Great. Chris, do you have anything that you'd like to add at this point?
No, I think we're good. So
okay, and we've managed to keep this together in 59 minutes. Which is kind of a record for us. Some of our webinars tend to go an hour and 10, right. Sometimes a little bit longer. So I appreciate Brian and Chris keeping it within the time frame. And our attendees, just wanted to steal your screen share real quick, since I can do that. And let you know that we have our next webinar is coming up Thursday. Adopting 3D models with PMI expands your quality process. While there's a link on the screen now, this will also be part of the recording that will be made available to you with a link in an email sent tomorrow. You can also visit highqa.com. And on top of that, visit us on LinkedIn, because it's there as well. So you can register for that webinar. Once again, that's at 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific time. We'd like to thank you for attending. Here's the contact information if you don't already have it. both phone numbers for High QA and ProShop, email contacts, and also our websites. So once again, thank you for attending today. We look forward to speaking with you in the future. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.